the show? Every moment of every show is available in podcast form by searching Hans and Scotty on your favorite podcasting platform or online at KSLSports.com. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Look at that. Engineers came in, fixed the mic. No big deal. Just had a screw loose.
Done and done, man. The screw just came out.
That's it. Not your fault.
Lloyd's over here hassling me about manhandling it.
Oh, come on. That's what we do.
No, that you made me
it's
feel
okay
bad.
if you did.
I felt bad because the mic fell during Scotty's incredible update and made a big old crashing noise.
No,
Well, that's okay. He'll have another one here in about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clean it up.
Well, I mean, look, it was a crappy update, and I got to use you as an excuse as to why it sucked. Now I don't have any more excuses.
That mic fell hard.
It did. It did. All right. Joining us now, he is your Cougar insider for KSLSports.com and an overall good dude, too. Mitch Harper, kind enough to join us from KSLSports.com. Mitch, how you doing?
What's up, Mitch?
Great, guys. It's been a busy day. Had heard from Kevin Young and Kalani today, so a lot going on. And I kind of like this time of the year with crossover season and transfer portal. I think it caps off the end of the year, but it also has a lot of sets the foundation for 2025 and the following year. So this is always a fun time of the year.
You headed out to San Antonio, bud?
I am 26th, and BYU players, talking with some of them today, it'll be a little bit different for them with actually spending Christmas during on a bowl destination. They're going to be leaving Christmas Eve, and they'll have SeaWorld, but I'll enjoy Christmas from home and then get to enjoy the Riverwalk that weekend.
Chase Roberts said he's going to make his decision or announce, I guess, his decision, whether he's going to go to the NFL or come back for another year at BYU. Do you think he's already made up his mind and is just waiting for the social media team to put together whatever announcement they're going to do?
It feels like that a little bit, but he did note that he's still, when in his words, waiting on some more feedback from NFL scouts. That's what he said, a couple hours ago. And Fesi Satake noted, earlier this week that they had conversations. They've been having regular conversations about this since the second bye week of the season. So that would have been the first week or the week right before the Utah game. So, Chase has been pretty candid that his mindset this year has been for this to be his last. But I think like we've seen from the past, we've heard that from Connor Pay, Tyler Batty, and they're here right now, and they maximize their eligibility. And I just think, with a wide receiver position, Chase Roberts has shown that he can be an NFL guy, but to be a drafted wide receiver in the NFL, I mean, that is a position that is so deep every single year. When there's a guy like Puka Nacua who goes in the 5th round, and Puka, I think many of us, seeing him when he was at Orem High, thought that's an all-timer. Chase was really good too, right next in line as far as high school players go. But I think there's kind of a different tier between someone like Puka and Chase. And, I think Chase, if he ran it back one more year and in the revenue sharing era, and BYU has shown an ability to do a nice job with NIL retention, he can make it probably a nice, good chunk of change. And then also, maybe be one of the all-time greats at BYU. If he has another year like this one, 800-plus receiving yards, he could crack into, the top 5 in all-time receiving yards, and that puts him among some of the best in BYU history. So I think that, coming back would be the move, but he noted that he wants to get some more feedback still from scouts.
Well, if I could give him some advice, I would certainly advise him to come back because I do think that he's got a very bright future coming up next year with this BYU team and having Jake Retzlaff back and really having this offense be sound and cranking. I think he can do some really good things. A couple things to keep in mind. He did serve a mission to Calgary, Alberta, and he was a kind of an older player even to begin with. So I'm sure he wants to get his professional career started, but BYU is getting up there in the money now. As you probably have seen and Mitch, they can get competitive with money and they can give him a payday that'll make it very much worth his time. And my advice to him would be take the money that BYU can get you. Go really pile up those numbers. Make it undeniable that you are a top 4 round draft pick, do everything you can to make it undeniable that you're a top 4 round draft pick, because outside of that, nothing is promised.
I agree.
He could go to the league and not make a penny as a free agent, or he could stick around next year, make a good chunk of change, and really solidify at least a 4th round pick.
I agree. And I think that there's also value, too, from maybe long-term NIL, where, if you become a BYU great, you could almost do anything in local companies and people that are BYU alums, and that network will open up their doors to anything. Jimmer Fredette probably still has a ton of NIL because of just he became a BYU great. And, Chase has got that ability. He's got the talent to be a top 150 draft pick or 4th round guy coming out of BYU. He's got that potential. And right now I just don't think he does. And BYU, that just speaks to the depth at wide receiver that we always see. I mean, you've got to have elite characteristics as an NFL draft prospect. And I just kind of look at Puka as a benchmark, too. If that guy was a 5th rounder, my goodness, what are we sizing up? I thought that was the craziest thing when Puka slid that far. And I knew he had the injury history. And for Chase, he's been relatively healthy in his career, which has been a positive. But, if someone like Puka slides to the 5th round, that's a high bar for what the NFL expects out of a receiver. So you're right, Hans. I think, capitalizing on the pay that BYU can give, I think it would be the move, because, BYU's Royal Blue Collective, they have done a really sound job of NIL retention in football. We're not talking AJ DeBansa money and where you're going to see a statement issued because, there's so much speculation about the money that's being thrown at someone like a Chase Roberts or Batty and guys that have come back for another year. But it's strong enough that, hey, is this better than being an undrafted free agent or a late 7th round guy? Maybe it can be comparable. And I just think that, BYU is stepping up their game with NIL. And I think it still can get better. You want to see BYU get to a point where, they're maybe getting into those I don't know if Kalani's ever going to want to get into the bidding wars for players, but, being able to get into the mix to go get a guy that could really change your program, and get that top-end transfer portal guy. They've done a nice job of identifying players that, they have previous relationships with and giving them, opportunities and packages, if you will, that make a lot of sense to transfer to BYU the second go-round. But, yeah, I think Chase Roberts, it'll be interesting to see when he formally announces his next move. But to me, it makes a lot of sense to run it back and go back to BYU.
Yep.
Let's say, Crew Wakely's in the portal. He played a lot of meaningful minutes for this team last year. Other than him, and I think there's one other player.
Ice.
Oh, that's right, Ice. Anybody else that you're concerned about missing this game due to portal issues?
Not right now. And the thing is with Ice Moa, that was a little bit, of a, not I want to say surprise, but I thought that, he's really kind of found a home at linebacker, and, he shed some weight, and I think that, it was, he's got some promise, and whatever school he ends up at, I know he's added a handful of offers already. Ice Moa's got potential. It just, sometimes we're learning now more than ever. Like, he's only in his 3rd year, and he was a 4-star guy. Man, those first 2 years are almost more critical than ever, where you can't just be patient to develop, especially in the 105-man roster era that they're going into. I was kind of forecasting what the roster could be for 2025, and I feel pretty good that there's about 93 guys that could be accounted for on next year's roster, and that includes some newcomers and some personnel, and I could easily get it up to 105 if you include a lot of the, maybe spring return missionaries and things like that. So there's still going to be some juggling, some cuts, and some moves that have to be made, and then having that wiggle room to add transfer players. But, when you bring up Crew Wakely as far as an absence, that was probably the biggest one for BYU in the portal. I spoke with Raider DeMooney today, and he's looking at this as an opportunity to really springboard into 2025. And DeMooney's gained some momentum, I think, in the month of November at that safety spot. He got his first career start against Arizona State when Crew Wakely was injured. And, him and Falatau Santuala are the top 2 guys vying for that spot. I think both are looking at this as, approaching this game as being the starter, but it could be a real tone setter for one of these guys to really lay claim to being the first team guy, because Jay Hill all along since he's arrived at BYU, he's made it clear at that safety spot, a position he played, he wants all Big 12 performers. And even though Crew Wakely was really good, and I think Wakely was excellent, I think Tanner Wall's been really good, he wants it to go to an even higher level with some of these safeties that are young guys that he really believes are home run players, and Damouni and Satawala will be next in line to replace Wakely.
And Parasis, I'd throw him in there too.
Yeah, too.
I think those three guys have been really incredible. So how bad is it that Darius Lassiter is going to spend a half on the bench, that first half on the bench?
That's a difficult situation that BYU is going to have to navigate, especially just when you consider the talent that Colorado has in their secondary, led by a Heisman winner. It's an opportunity for someone like a JoJo Phillips to step up and really kind of set the tone for him going into 2025 as well. And JoJo Phillips is going to be, I think, viewed upon as someone that'll be a big piece for BYU's receiver unit, whether or not Chase Roberts comes back. JoJo will be looked upon to take a big step forward. And you've seen signs of that too. Think back to the Oklahoma State game when the late, the game winner that ultimately went to Darius Lassiter, the original play call was designed for JoJo Phillips. And the Arizona State game, there was that late attempt deep to JoJo Phillips in critical situations. BYU has looked to JoJo. So it'll be a great opportunity for him. And I just think that's kind of a theme with this bowl matchup, even though and Jay Hill pointed it out that, ideally you would have liked to have seen BYU play a different conference foe, but for it to be Colorado and the top end talent that they have and the star power, the eyeballs that they create, this can really springboard BYU to really get some momentum for next year that maybe not many non-playoff bowls can provide anymore. And I just think that there has been a much more positive energy, I think, coming out of BYU's practices than I was expecting. Because the last month of the season, BYU, they dropped the ball. I mean, they missed out on a incredible opportunity to get to the playoffs, to get to the Big 12 championship, and go win a league title. And they squandered that. But you've got two teams that kind of had the same deal, and they're both looking at it as a way to just kind of put a strong mark on the end of their season. So, but BYU's receiver unit should be okay, even without Lassiter, and it's kind of an early sneak peek at what life will be like without him in next season.
What's the early indications look like in terms of acquisitions via the transfer portal for BYU?
So they've got, some offers out that, one that's going to be one to monitor is Andrew Gentry, the offensive tackle from Michigan. And, he's been a player that he spurned BYU twice before. He picked Virginia out of high school, and then he picked Michigan. And BYU's been in the mix for him this time. They need offensive tackles. Losing ETN, losing Braden Keim, those are significant. And to not have Isaiah Jada, a former Colorado Buff, in this one, that's unfortunate too, because he's going to be looked upon to be a starter next year. So Gentry's going to be a top target. They've also offered a Southern Utah transfer as well. They've had success with identifying FCS players in the past. And then the Washington edge rusher, Holtzclaw, he took an official visit as well. He had also visits to Iowa State, Boise State as well. BYU's in the mix for some guys. It's just kind of a matter of when these guys are going to make their decisions, but it's got to be happening soon. Typically before Christmas, you start to see these transfer portal decisions shored up. And Trey Spivey from Kansas State, he's another one that's also been out there, and Malachi Riley from Arizona too. So, and a common theme with a lot of those is that, again, BYU recruited them out of high school. They had an existing relationship before, so when those guys did hit the portal, BYU kind of already has some familiarity and that they can maybe get into the mix, and those guys are willing to really, embrace BYU, the conversation. But BYU knows that from their processes that they vetted them in the high school recruiting, they feel like they could be fits to BYU. And, that's been a theme, too, from talking to the coordinators and Kalani, that BYU is not going to let go of the fit at BYU off the field. So that's still going to matter, even in this big money era that is college football, because I'll admit, just in my work, in the media, I tend to sometimes forget that these guys are sometimes students too. When you're hearing all the rumors and the speculation about the money that's being tossed around, you kind of forget that they're supposed to go to class still. But that's still a thing in Kalani's program. They do value that. So they want to figure out, guys are going to be good fits. And that's been some of the guys that I've been keeping tabs on with this portal activity.
Everybody's fired up about basketball, and for good reason. Big-time recruits, and BYU's done very well there. That being said, football is what ultimately drives the revenue, and football is what is the front porch of every university. So, that being said, with the extension, and I know it's all private, BYU doesn't have to disclose a thing. I'm just asking you to speculate, probably an unfair question to ask. Who do you think makes more money right now, Kalani Sitake or Kevin Young?
It's a good question. I mean, I would have to think that probably, if I had to speculate, I'd say it could be close, but I'd say probably Kevin Young.
Yeah.
I'd probably say Kevin Young. I'd have to say him because he had a little more leverage, coming into this, and being from the NBA and having possibilities for being an NBA head coach, and BYU kind of being in a spot. I mean, in that basketball program, it was him, and if it wasn't going to be him, you were going to turn to probably a coaching candidates that were not as qualified to be a Big 12 head coach. So whereas Kalani has, he was in that maybe developmental coach role that BYU's always thrived on with getting their coaches. But, and Kalani's had some up and down years, but I think he's found his stride. And I think that BYU is in a place now where I would be pretty surprised if you saw BYU take, massive dips as they did last year. And look, the Big 12, the margin is thin in this league. I mean, Kansas was a really good team, and they ended up with 5 wins. I mean, that could happen, but I just think the product is not going to dip to the levels you saw in 17 and then 2023. It's going to be a pretty steady product. Now it's just a matter of, can you do enough, personnel-wise at the top end of your roster to break through and go win a Big 12 title? But, I think BYU's got to continue to your point about, football being the revenue driver. They got to go all in, and I think that there's got to be, more commitment even from, the football ops building. And I know facilities probably not going to be as much of a focus anymore with the revenue sharing, but just giving BYU, that coaching staff, everything they possibly need to win over recruits and portal additions to really have success, because you're still seeing programs, in the Big 10, the SEC, and even in the Big 12. I mean, the commitments that they're throwing, the money they're throwing at facilities and their NIL collectives and their rosters, it's big money deal. And, I think BYU has been a lot more willing to play the big money game than I think many would have thought. And I think that's been a little bit surprising, but it's got to just continue to level up even more to go, because now you've kind of tasted that success, and I think that you want to break through and go actually win the thing next time.
Mitch, appreciate it, man. Thanks for your time.
You bet, guys. Take care.
There he is, Mitch Harper, KSLSports.com, Cougar Insider. All right, if one of your goals is to be able to donate gobs and gobs of money to your favorite university's NIL fund, I guess good luck to you. I'm happy for you. I can't imagine ever doing that. But if that's your goal, Ethan can help make that happen for you.
That's right. And I'll tell you where people are. I'll tell you where sports fans are, because we meet a lot of great sports fans, in our partnership with you guys. And so we're seeing a lot of families that have sports in their future, things they want to do, season tickets they want to have. Yeah. Some traveling they want to do with their team.
People want to go check every major league ballpark or every NHL arena they've got those goals.
Or travel with the Utes or travel with the Cougars and those are or facilitate grandchildren, right? And their sporting ambitions. And all those things are so worthy, but you've got to have a plan for it. If you're just drifting, you're not going to land where you want to land. You're going to land somewhere. Right? You're going to land somewhere, but you're not going to land where you want to land. You've got to have a plan to move forward deliberately to get the things that you want out of your retirement. That's why we developed the Ascent Plan. The Ascent Plan is our proprietary process where we look at all the 5 areas that you need to have a handle on: your income, your investments, your taxes, your health care, and your estate, to make sure that you are on a path that will take you to where you want to go and that you have a high likelihood of succeeding and ending up there. So if you'll call right now, 435-255-6331. We'll do one of these Ascent Plans for you. The same Ascent Plan we do for our client families. It's a little stack of papers with your name on the front and your information on the inside. We'll show you what you need to do to get onto that well-worn path to get what you want, to get what you're looking forward to. And I know it's really going to bless your life. There's no cost and no obligation for this. If you call right now, 435-255-6331. We're only doing 10 of these. We've got a few left that we can still do. Okay. And I always get that question of, why you do this for free.
Yeah.
And
because it's a lot of your time.
It is a lot of our time. And that's why we limit the numbers. But it works like this. Because, this is how we meet new families that we can work with. Out of the 10 Ascent Plans that we do over the next couple of weeks, well, probably the next month because we got Christmas and New Year's coming up. So, probably take a little bit. But probably 2 or 3 of those families are going to want to work with us long term. The other 7 or 8, they're going to get full Ascent Plans, all the questions answered, everything's going home with you, and then if you ever need us again, you call us. That's how it works.
It really is that easy, too.
It's so easy. So if you'll call right now, 435-255-6331, you're going to love it because right now that anxiety that you're feeling about your future and your finances, that can be resolved with information and planning. It's like turning on the light in a dark room.
Stop with the worry and the anxiety, man.
You don't have to carry that with you.
Have all the knowledge.
Replace that anxiety with enthusiasm, with excitement.
Your direction.
Oh, it's so powerful. Yeah. It's so powerful.
If you know what you need to do to accomplish retirement, then you can get to it. But you got to know what to do.
You don't have to be afraid anymore because that anxiety has been replaced with a set of tasks. You got a high likelihood of succeeding. So 435-255-6331. We'd love to do one for you.
Teton Wealth going to hook you up. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
Fran Fraschilla, longtime coach and basketball commentator.
The thing about BYU, the history of the school program, they're not going to knowingly break any rules. The most disappointed people in this whole new NIL world are the cheaters, people that used to cheat. Now you can do NIL legally, and BYU obviously has a very healthy NIL program. So what AJ and some of these other young talents are becoming, they're the front porch of BYU, the university itself, and in a sense, the front porch of the church. The Cougs have always had great basketball tradition. They have a terrific young coaching staff. NIL's a factor now. Great fan support. So I think AJ picking BYU is certainly great for the school. It's great for the Big 12. And having seen AJ play this past summer, he's an enormous talent. So I think it's phenomenal.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The wheel is loaded, and it's time to talk some sports. This is Sports Roulette with Hans and Scotty on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Remember, the Zone, proud to support the all-day media-thon at the Road Home. It's our annual tradition to raise money and other essential items for Utah's homeless population. Join us coming up December 20th. We'll help raise money to support the cause. Monetary and in-kind donations collected during the annual holiday media-thon helps empower the Road Home to provide shelter and supportive services for overcoming homelessness. It's all brought to you by Performance Automotive Group in Bountiful. All right, Lloyd, fire up. Let's get to that wheel.
The Big 12 with a bad start.
West Virginia falls to the Memphis Tigers, 42-37 in the Frisco Bowl.
First bowl game in the books.
Big 12 has stumbled already. So West Virginia was trying to go on I don't remember, they had 40 seconds, minute left. I can't remember exactly what it was. And they needed to get themselves into the end zone. And Garrett Green ended up throwing an interception to Elijah Herring, and that was it.
Yep.
Memphis grabs the win. And I just look at this, and I'm like, come on. Big 12, you really got to start to make a name for yourself.
And I know it's not fair, but conferences, man, are they judged by how they perform in bowl games?
They're judged.
Yeah. Even though, look, West Virginia, they blew out their coach. They weren't a particularly great team anyway last year, but, they've got a bunch of dudes in the portal. It's hard to judge a team based on what they do in a bowl game, but you get judged by how you do in a bowl game.
And Memphis, I know that they finished the season ranked, but they finished fourth in the
AAC,
the American Athletic Conference. Yeah. They finished behind Army, Tulane, Navy, and then I think Memphis was in there. Now, they had a great record, but they were 6-2 and lost the tiebreaker and ended up fourth in the conference. And West Virginia goes out there as a Big 12 member and stumbles. That happens. I know it happens, but the Big 12 does need to start to build a bit of a barricade and say, no, we're elite.
Yep.
And we separate ourselves, and we deserve TV revenue and eyeballs and attention. And that's just a stumbling start.
Yep. All right. Lloyd, spin it.
The Nerds are ready to compete.
Well, a little bit of news out of the FCS front as the Ivy League, who, and I did not know this until Lloyd and I were part of This Week in Big Sky Football before we got fired. The FCS playoffs do not include the Ivy League. Ivy League has their regular season champs, and that's it. No bowl games, no nothing for Ivy League. Well, guess what? Harvard, Yale, the rest of the crew, they're ready to compete. And starting next year, the Ivy League teams will be available for the FCS playoffs.
The geeks got it.
The nerds are ready to show what they got on the national stage.
They're busy studying for final exams. Preparing for a bowl game.
We don't got time for playoffs. Playoffs? We got our chemistry final.
If their walkout music isn't that techno music from Revenge of the Nerds?
God, thank you.
Oh, that's so great.
If that's not their walkout music.
And now, it's your Harvard, I don't know, what's Harvard? Bulldogs. I think that's Yale, actually.
I think it is
Yale is the Bulldogs.
It's your Yale Bulldogs in their first round matchup against the Montana Grizzlies. Let's hear it for your Yale Bulldogs as they come out onto the field.
And it's just Poindexter with that skinny violin. Dee-dee-dee-dee. Dee-dee-dee-dee.
Oh, man. I love that movie.
Yeah.
There we go.
You got to admit, though, man, this part of Revenge of the Nerds is pretty sick.
Oh, yeah.
You can understand why the girls ended up loving them.
Oh, of course. They need uniforms, like little pocket protectors. And
dude, Lamar figuring out that a javelin, when flexible and limp, can go further. It oscillated through the air. Dude, he was unbelievable.
I know.
The brains on those guys.
So I would not bet against the nerds out of the Ivy League when it comes to the FCS football ranks. All right, one more, Lloyd. Spin it.
Poll results.
How are we looking?
All right, so I sent out the poll question, and here's how I worded it. David Locke told us the NBA Cup has been a, quote, big win for the NBA and has absolutely worked for the league. And then I asked, how much time did you actually spend watching? First option, I was dialed in, loved it. Second option, I caught a game or two. And then the third option, no interest whatsoever. Leading the way with over 750 votes cast in the last 15 minutes. With 85% of the votes, no interest whatsoever.
85% of the near 800?
85.9%, I guess I should say. 11.5 has caught a game or two. 2.6% said I was dialed in and loved it. Not really surprised by that.
I just feel like our market loves the Jazz.
Yep.
And everything else is a side note.
Yep.
Is a distant thought.
Nobody's running home saying, hey, honey, let's get that Milwaukee-Oklahoma City game on. Let's go. It's the championship. Let's order us some pizza, some wings, and sit back and watch some NBA Cup championship.
Now, I got to admit, that sounds nice to me.
I know, for me too.
For us, that's the idea.
Yeah.
I do think Kurt Heelan's got a bit of a point. I think that our minds right now as Americans, and I'll be more specific, our minds right now as Utahns, I think are a little bit more distracted with life.
Yeah.
Than in years past. You know, I think we get so consumed with the political stage and we worry about income. And when you're a guy just fighting to make it, the last thing that's on your mind is relaxing and watching a game and hitting a pizza. To watch a league of a bunch of entitled.
That doesn't help.
Entitled brats that act entitled and then complain about it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that really fits well with our state.
Yeah.
I just think that, like Rudy Gobert, I thought he displayed gratitude, personally. Maybe I'm in the
No, I think he absolutely did. Yeah.
Displayed gratitude. You would think guys that are making $24 million a year would just be overflowing with gratitude and a bit of humility. But that's not the way it's taken.
Doesn't feel that way. All right, final segment next, and we'll get you ready for JJ and Alex straight ahead, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, bro. You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what you doing?
Well, now, it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
This show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
She bangs! She bangs!
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Woo! Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hope you're all having a great day as we reach the halfway point of the week. And what better way to celebrate than go hang out with our guys, JJ and Alex. They'll be at Doug Smith Mitsubishi, 495 West Main Street in American Fork, just off the freeway. No one knows Mitsubishi like Doug.
Hey, I just wanted to remind everybody, we do have some... What's that?
Oh, no, sorry.
We do have some bowl games that are rolling today.
Yes.
So right about 30 minutes from now, James Madison kicking off against Western Kentucky. Blah, nobody cares. But the evening, you got Cal and UNLV. I'm actually excited to watch UNLV.
That'll be a good game.
I want to see UNLV go out there and find themselves a win over a 6-6 Cal team that is rebooting. I fully expect UNLV to beat them by 17.
Yeah, it's not going to be much of a game.
Shouldn't. And I know UNLV's been going through their mess too. They've been pillaged, just like Boise State's getting pillaged.
Yeah, everybody's just getting hammered. By the way, Cam Calhoun on his way to Alabama.
That's right. Former corner for the University of Utah, jumped into the portal. Big name. I think he was a gigantic name in that portal, and Alabama lands him.
Yep. Although Alabama just released a statement earlier today like, hey, people are rating our team, and we need to raise money to all of its boosters. Their athletic director was claiming poverty.
Oh,
it's like the house in Vegas complaining about gambling losses.
At what point do these boosters say,
shut up.
I'm tapped out.
Yeah, you figure it out.
Like at what point?
We need to change our non-conference schedule because we didn't make the playoff.
Shut up.
I mean, it is. The booster stories are shocking to me.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of went over the Ryan Smith situation. He tweeted out and was like, hey, look, everybody, I don't know what you think I do, but what you perceive is not what happens. And when I dig a little bit and talk to people in the BYU circles, it's like they got more money than you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And people will write checks blindly. They don't care.
Oh, you need money? Here you go.
They write it blind. Like, this is for the health of the kids and the success of the program, and this is my duty.
Yeah.
I want to see it succeed. Here you go.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.